Good morning or good afternoon, Year 5. So let's see what happens next. So we've had Mr. Rashid and Mrs. Rashid, and we've had the next door neighbour. But let's see what Mr. Greggs has got to say because they don't like Mr. Greggs, do they? Yes, Mr. Greggs, what can I do for you? Asked Mum in her most polite voice. She only ever uses that voice when she talks to people she doesn't like Aunt Christina or the man with the clipboard who calls himself landlord. Mr. Greggs cleared his throat and said, I just dropped by to say that your daughter there would do well to mind her own business. Those pesky refugees are only here because they want a piece of our benefits pie. She ought to know better, and you ought to have taught her better. I looked up at Mum's face and saw that it had gone as white as one of our dinner plates, as she stared at Mr. Greggs without blinking. Have you finished? She said, in a voice that was so cold I didn't recognise it. All I'm saying is that your child was nearly killed today for immigrant pests that want their easy life without having to work a day for it. I mean, I know you're not exactly white, but you've been here long enough to know better, surely. Wow, Year 5. Mr. Greggs, this is quite enough, said Mum, her voice cold and formal. Her eyes had narrowed and her hands had become tight little balls. You and your views are not welcome here. Please leave. And taking a step back, Mum slammed the door shut just as loudly as she could, so that 1 second Mr. Greggs was there, and the next he wasn't. We could hear him ranting at us from the other side, but after a few seconds his voice started to get fainter and fainter. Despicable man, muttered Mum, clicking the extra bolt on the door shut, with his dinner jackets and his silly neckerchiefs trying to cover up his bigotry. Why is she so angry? Why is he so angry, Mum? I asked, slipping my hand into hers. And why did he call refugees pests? Because he's a heartless, selfish man who hates everyone far too much to want to help anyone, said Mum, even refugee children like Emmett. Oh, I said, wondering how anyone could hate someone who was running away from bullies and bombs. Mr. Greggs had clearly never met someone like Emmett before, because if he had, he could never have been so horrible by anyone who had to become a refugee. Now, let's forget about Mr. Greggs and go see what the news is saying about you, shall we? She ruffled my hair and then went and switched on the telly, as I did a running jump onto the sofa. After a few seconds, a newsreader flashed up onto the screen. Her voice was warm as she said, Today, an incident at Buckingham Palace added an extra few steps to the changing of the guard ceremony as a 9-year-old child ran out and intercepted one of the Queen's Coldstream Guards. As she talked, the picture changed and I appeared on the screen. Running out of the crowd and reaching up to touch a palace guard's arm, with Tom just a few steps behind me, I looked so scared that it made me wonder how I had done it, what I did. I had never ever seen anyone I knew on the television before, and it was strange. It was the strangest thing in the world to not only see myself in it, but to have done something that a newsreader was talking about. It transpired that the child in question wanted to hand a note to the Queen, appealing for help on behalf of a refugee boy searching for his parents, following their joint escape from the ongoing conflict in Syria. We are expecting an official response from Buckingham Palace later this evening. Mum quickly flicked over to the next channel. Another newsreader was talking, and behind him was another picture of me, looking shocked and scared. The Queen's Guard had an unexpected encounter today, as a young child broke through the barriers during the famed changing of the guard ceremony. It is said the attack was made in protest against the government's poor handling of the refugee crisis. But I didn't attack anyone, I cried out. Mum nodded, but didn't say anything, and instead switched the channel to another newsreader. The third newsreader confused me the most because he said, a 9-year-old child sparked a terrorist alert today after disturbing the changing of the guard ceremony and raising wider questions around security. Mum leaned over and turned off the sound. But I didn't want to hurt anyone, I said, trying not to cry. What do they think? I'm a terrorist? Mum sighed sadly and opening up her arms pulled me towards her. Wow, Year 5, I did not expect all that happening. Wow, so I want to see what's going to be this briefing. What's the announcement that the Queen's going to give about what happened? So we'll find out tomorrow. Over and out. Miss Davis.